Hello, everyone. This is John Saltas, standing next to my favorite swimming pool of all time, and I mean that literally. It was my first swimming pool. It was in the middle of Bingham at the Civic Center in Bingham Canyon, Utah, right in the middle of town. My brothers were lifeguards there in the late 50s or something like that, and it wasn't a big pool. Many years later, after the Civic Center was even closed, you could still smell the chlorine in there, and it just drawn me back to the earliest memory of mine where I decided to be a miscreant malcontent. And I took a sharp nail to the bottom of that swimming pool, trying to cut the vinyl lining to see if I could cause a leak in it to draw fungus. And, I guess it had enough chlorine in there. There was never a fungus in there that I ever knew of. So anyway, there I stand, and reminds me, too, of at the clinic there. Not the clinic, but that's where they would give immunization shots in there sometimes. And so my fear of doctors was born there. Civic Center brought a lot of memories to me. And today, I had some doctor reports I'll talk to you, Ron, wherever you are. It's always nice to get bad news from a doctor. So I'm really cheerful today. Got the chlorine odor very strong all over me. And, thinking back to when I ran from Dr. Jenkins because he put a giant needle in my arm and immunize me from something. And then, my opening the email. That was real fun. So where are you? You must be in the same canyon. It's around the 4th of July. We had to have been around the same area, right?
Yeah, I'm up the canyon a little bit. I'm in Highland Boy. I'm at the Highland Boy Community House. And before I get there, I'm sorry to hear that you've got some bad information from your doctor. But, what do we say? We go and we talk to him directly if we can to find out what the deal is. You look okay.
Well, bad is relative, right? But I didn't expect. I was feeling pretty good until 20 minutes ago. I haven't had internet all morning, and then all of a sudden when it came back on, your results are in abnormal, bing, 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 abnormal, bing, 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 bing. And I go, shit.
AB normal.
Normal if we're talking
about young Frankenstein. Well, I'm at the Highland Boy Elementary School, and I'm here in Mrs. English's class, my first public school teacher, and I'm doing what we used to have to do when we did something wrong or we were not actually, I guess, concentrating in class. I don't know if you ever had to write on the blackboard.
Not in first grade, because we had the blackboards that pulled down from the roof or something like that. And first graders tended not to be able to reach over where they kept the erasers. But if I was on a ladder, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, I had to do it, but this time I'm writing, and it's because of one of our listeners, Mary Gaythwaite, sent or posted a really nice response to our last week's Bingham Boys, 2 weeks ago actually, where I guess I know I was a little bit down about where we were with the country, and she posted a really nice, not a condemnatory, but just a reminder about how the mere fact that things are going bad in our country doesn't mean that we shouldn't participate in things. In fact, I think you're going to read it. And so as a result of that, I've been writing 100 times on the blackboard, stop feeling...
I will eat all my sarmas?
No, they don't have to tell me that. I wouldn't have to do that. Stop feeling sorry for yourself.
Oh,
okay?
So this is the message to me right now,
yeah.
isn't it?
No, it isn't the message to you. It's the message to me back then. But we'll take a second, and you can read that her post was really thoughtful, and I think it hits at home.
Yeah, I went to the annual 4th of July up at Copperton Park this year. Many years I'd miss and hit and miss over the time. But I went up there again this year, and among the people I saw, some of the always usual suspects, but I right away saw Louise and her sister Edie Gaythwaite, mm-hmm. and Edie had spoken that she said, hey, did you see the comment on Substack that she had left? And I hadn't. And then she said, well, read it. Tell Ron that my mother wrote it. So this is actually not from Edie, it's from her mother. Mm-hmm. She's writing it for her mother. And I forwarded it to you, so if you'd like, I'll read it.
Yeah, read it.
By the way, the Gaythwaites are a British Isles family. rock solid bunch of people among all the other ethnic groups up there. We sometimes forget that not everybody had to speak a foreign tongue to be ethnic, because the Northern Europeans, or whatever, certainly the English, there were a lot of English miners and stuff up there that came over as well. But anyway, this is the message. Hey, Ron, this message is from my mom, Mary. She disagrees with you about the 4th of July celebrations. She says, I was in the drum and bugle corps in high school, and they did parades all over in little small towns. These parades and breakfasts and celebrations offer the communities an opportunity to come together and to often have fundraisers that benefit the community where they live. Sometimes these fundraisers support programs for the remainder of the year. For example, summer programs, opportunities for seniors, and other such events. Don't let the orange man ruin your 4th of July. That's giving away your power as an American to exercise your rights, which are guaranteed in the Constitution of the United States of America, to which we celebrate on 4 July. I recommend you get your chair out to save your spot along the parade route, go to breakfast early, and spend the day with family and friends. Happy 4th of July. And that's from Edie and Mary. So there you go.
What a great comment. And she was 100% right. I can't say that I did that, but it's a reminder that at times we truly do get into this position where we just get sick of the politics and we stand back. And if we all do that, then we're forgetting about why we celebrate it. We're not celebrating it because of the orange man. In fact, we're celebrating it only because of him, because he's not what it is about. And we're celebrating it about all of the people that did so much for us. I thought, when I read that, I thought that was so great, because that was, and reminded me of Mrs. English and some of my other grade school teachers who could let you know you were wrong in such a terrific way that you learned the lesson even better. And great lesson to me, and a lot of other people that feel that same way.
Yeah, I mean, we the small town communities always do this. One of my better ones, small town, I mentioned a lot of them in a column I wrote last week, but one of my really fun memories was being in Richfield, Utah, central Utah, and on a 4th of July, and went to their 4th of July parade. It was really cool. Just like, they didn't get the memo, you're not supposed to throw candy. So they threw candy out. It's like, you're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And the fire trucks and all this farm implements going down the road and all that kind of stuff, and animals. And it was very, very old-timey, old-fashioned, lots of fun 4th of July. And ours up in Bingham were like that, and other communities and places I've lived. So, she's right, and the 4th, it's the date on the calendar, but that's not what we celebrate, just the 4th. It's Independence Day. That's what it is, the celebration of independence. And from King George, and England. And we need to be reminded all the time of the two things that it entails. One, that we are a community, and you can take whatever bite off the word community you can or want to from a small little town or the state or the country, being a community, or pockets of different ethnicities within a community, or regions or geographies and demographics. They comprise communities too. So it's a day when we can commune, right? And be that all together. And the second part is to recall the essence of why that day became celebrated in the first place.
Yeah, I just think it was a great post, because it really did bring me back kind of home to, you're upset about what's going on in this country. On the other hand, who believes in the Declaration of Independence and ultimately the Constitution more than I do? I'm sure there may be people, but I believe in what it's about. And as a result of that, I thought today we talked a little bit about this, that the Declaration of Independence is something I read every year. So one of the things I do every 4th of July is I reread the Declaration of Independence. It's short. You can really do it in about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And we're going to read portions of it today. That sounds boring, but really our purpose in doing this is to indicate to everybody that not only was I wrong in my attitude about not wanting to even celebrate it, I was wrong in my attitude because in large part, the Declaration of Independence is maybe the seminal document of the 18th century when people began to rise up against tyranny in all of its forms. And that document has been used over and over again by other countries, other communities, other nations when they have decided that it was time to throw off a tyrant. So in dealing with that and where we are today in America, everybody knows our position relative to the President of the United States who now sits there. We're going to just take a minute and read it and go from there.
Which part of it was written in biblical terms?
Well, I don't know that there's a specific part, but throughout it, they talk about, at the beginning, for example, they mention laws of God and nature. We remember who we were as human beings at that time. And there was a lot of dissent relative to religion, but there was a sense, going back to prehistoric times, that there was a creator being or some sort of...
So they acknowledge the existence of the laws of nature and then nature's God.
Right, and so...
Which religion is that, though?
Well, I mean, it really could be a number of religions. I don't know if you're getting to the fact that it relates primarily to Christianity. To a degree it does.
Only because so many people continue to harp that we were founded as a Christian nation, and I know it's not in the Declaration of Independence, and we get the Constitution in a few more years when they wrote that, whenever it was written. So I'm just curious because it comes up all the time.
Well, okay, so before we read the introduction to it, remember there were a lot of the people that were at in the Continental Congress were deists.
Right.
There were a number of them that were actually specifically non-Christian. Thomas Jefferson's Christian Bible, his New Testament, eliminates all of the miracles of Jesus. It's an interesting take on the Bible that I commend people to look at. It's well done. He was a smart guy. He wrote major portions of the Declaration of Independence and other things as well. But there were a lot of practicing Congregationalists and people like that. It is not intended, and you can read about this, to be overtly Christian, but of course that has something to do with it. And so we'll start. And remember this, as you read it, the people that are doing this are not Americans. They're British subjects. They're subjects to the King of England. They are people like you and I, and those of you are the Republicans that didn't like Biden or whatever, and those of us who oppose much of what Donald Trump does, but still believe in representative government. These are those same people. This is, even though they're governed from a place across the ocean, the Atlantic, they are subjects of the King of England. And so it starts this way. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. Okay, they use the word state. State has a real archaic term there, but it means independent of other political formation. When in the course, this is it. This is the great line that they begin with. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. Natural law is what that is a reference to. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. And where we start there, if I may, I don't mean to lecture, but they are now going to say, about a guy, King George, who is their leader. He is the supreme ruler, literally, of the English Commonwealths. I don't know if they even call him that, but the people under his rule, they say, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That phrase there is basically from John Locke with one change. John Locke talked about, and he was an English dissenter and philosopher, political philosopher. He said life, liberty, and property. They changed it to pursuit of happiness for a number of reasons probably, but the primary one was you can't live a life that has joy to it when you've got the foot of a tyrant on your neck, okay? That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Once again, the English king did have some responsibility to certain groups of people, and they did relinquish some rights to him, but their form of government left him the ability to do basically whatever he wanted. And Parliament was not helping the American colonists at all in what they wanted to do. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of those ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So we'll just stopping there, John. So, and I know that you know the Declaration, but when you look at that, what these people are saying is things that we've said on this podcast a lot. People that live under a governmental organization, they want primarily a life that allows them and their families to grow and be nurtured, to feel safe within the bounds of their country and from outside oppression, and not to feel the fear that so many people had felt throughout European history. These are Europeans writing this. And it was a big deal to them that they had done all of this hard work under the charter of the King of England, and he just seemingly didn't give a damn about what they wanted. And so I think for us today, and we're not going to read the whole thing, we're going to skip, this becomes literally an indictment of the British Crown at that time. Again, this is by their citizens. And so we'll skip a little bit and go to what they claim is the problem.
Just the facts.
Just the facts. This is the indictment. He has refused to assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. All right. So I'll start and then you can go. One of the problems that we have is we have a representative form of government with three branches. And Donald Trump is certainly not a historian, certainly not somebody that has read the debates at the Continental Convention or any of that stuff. You can still be a good citizen and do that. Donald Trump has determined that he doesn't have to assent to anything. He can do whatever he wants, whether there are laws on the books or not. And the examples are plentiful from his second term particularly.
Right. So this says the king, he's using the word he, King George has refused his assent to laws, right?
Right. Because there was some restrictions on what he could do.
The most wholesome and necessary for the public good. I am just going to be what I am and say that I'm not alone, and I don't think Donald Trump is a very wholesome person. Never has been, never will be, and has never done anything necessary for the public good. That's his entirety of his being, since he was a child. Now he's ascended to our presidency. He's popular, and he says things that make people feel titillated, and he makes people feel like he's speaking for them, but he's not this person. He's not a wholesome person, and he does nothing necessary for the public good. He does it for the Trumpian good.
They go on to say right after that, the history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpation, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over the states. And again, that's about when they began their indictment. But the idea is that even the king has responsibility to his subjects.
Well, it begins with the very basic, though. It begins with you've got to have a decent person sitting in the chair. That's what that first one says to me. If you don't have somebody ethically bound, decent, wholesome, in thinking first of others before himself, that starts it and ends it all. It can't go past that without somebody decent in that seat.
No, I think that is the case, and I think that they've had problems with the monarchy before, and that's where we get...
Rule as you wish, as a tyrant or a good guy. But it takes a decent person to make a decent country.
Right. And also someone that has some understanding of what it is to like to live under the rule of both a good or a bad one. And he didn't have that, and neither does Donald Trump. His refused to assent to the law. So, for example, simple one. He just knocked down the East Wing in the White House because he wanted to. There were laws in place that said he couldn't do it. He had to go through a procedure. He didn't do it. He changed the reflecting pools. There are statutes that say you've got to put that out for competitive bid. He didn't do it. He gave it to a buddy, somebody he knows who did a bad job, and now he's going to give them more money to fix it, again, without a competitive bid. People may think, oh, that's not a big deal. That happens all the time. But it really doesn't, and it shouldn't, because that's what the laws are for.
He's done more damage to the White House than the British did in 1812.
Oh,
and so, they tried to burn it down and didn't quite. Yeah. So that symbolism of it surviving a war in 1812 to today, and he's doing. Look, I'm Greek. I have a little appreciation for Doric, Ionian, and Corinthian columns.
Right.
But you don't change them just because they look better. There's an entire aesthetic there. And by the way, you can debate which ones are the best suited to look different. But that's what's going on now. Let me change those because these are not ornate enough. Well, and let me put a helipad in. And let me put something over the rose garden. And the best granite in the world will last 1,000,000 years, and you find out it doesn't. So it's whether they're laws or not. The legal part, he knows he can break rules all freaking day long and nobody's going to stop him. I mean, the rule should be, is that really proper that we just start hacking at shit just because we can?
No, the
rule of decency says, no, you don't do that. Stick in your lane. Do what you do well if you do it well. And don't spray puddles of water on the woman with her child on the side of the sidewalk just because you drive your car rapidly through a puddle of water and spray it. That's what he does. He spits and pisses on everybody.
Well, he does that, and there are rules that he's supposed to follow. He doesn't. That's what
it says.
That's what the Continental Congress was upset about, and the American people were at that time. They were becoming the American people. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. So,
just like holding up appointments and holding
up appointments, not letting them go forward with votes on the floor of the House, his people stopping because he said he doesn't want it done. All of the stuff that has been hung up in the congressional branch of our government has come because Donald Trump wants something different, or he wants to be the one to frame it, and he wants to generally do that because, as the Wall Street Journal just told us, a paper that supports him, Rupert Murdoch's paper, said that everything he does to benefit himself, his friends, or his family.
I've said that since the 70s, 80s, and we've said it over here. But you know what? It's a spitwad against a battleship.
But it may well be, but that spitwad ended up overthrowing King George here, at least in America. And it's the same deal. It is exactly the same deal. He has refused to pass other laws for accommodation of large districts of people.
Blue states.
Unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. And so what has he done? State legislatures have to do what he wants. They have to do it how he wants it. He's gone into county through others, and by voicing this publicly, county courthouses to get people to change election results because he wasn't happy with them, and has even asked them to lie about it. And people will go, well, that's not what they were bitching about with England. It in fact is that King George was controlling the electoral process everywhere. A little bit different, but the thought is the same. And what struck me when I read it again this year was, over and over again, it's this type of thing. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from their dispository of their public records. Well, he hasn't done that exactly, but he has told, like his leader in Congress, leader in the Senate, when they will meet, when they should meet, how they should go about doing it. And he's done it with the idea, and this is, I love this, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has worn everybody out. The one thing Donald Trump does get, if I keep on this track, people are going to get tired of it. Ron Yengich, you were fed up with him. You didn't want to go to anything because of it. And I'm just nothing, but also people that are responsible for leading us. He has fatigued this country beyond belief. And the people at that time were truly tired of petitioning Parliament and asking them to give them cut them some slack, and they didn't help those people out at all. Many of them business people. He has.
Here's if you're
go ahead.
I was just getting one that we talked about months ago in the No King's Marches. People kept on saying, "Oh, you guys, he's not a king because he doesn't have a crown on his head." And then, King of England comes and visits. Oh, there's a real king here now. How come you're so silent now, you left-wing libtards? Well, it says right in here, King George has kept among us, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. What was ICE doing in Minnesota?
What was the National Guard doing in Minnesota?
From Oregon to D.C. to wherever.
Los Angeles.
This was, one can sit back and talk the case. Well, was this really a terrible, terrible problem or not? Could it have been managed any different ways? What can we do about it? As opposed to like, I've got the funds now. I've got the person in charge that will hear me out and do what I tell them to do. And suddenly there's 2,000 troops in Minnesota. So, this is what the protest was about.
This is exactly what it was about. And so it isn't simply foreign mercenaries being there. It is people who are taking over the responsibility of police work, who are in the military and then are therefore subject to his power. Because once that happens, they're subject to him. ICE was subject to his power. Okay. And that is the problem. That's why we have separate states.
Did we have a cause to send or try to help anywhere that there was a, out-of-round immigration problem or crime problem, all that stuff? You can make the case, governments are supposed to keep us safe. It says in here we are supposed to do that. But in this manner, no. That's not how it's done. And anybody that can excuse and make that as an excuse says, you can become a little bit pregnant.
Well, it also goes to show you that our government is intended to be different. And that is that we don't have one supreme leader. That's what this whole document is about. It's the people's will, not his. And so if you're in Minnesota and you vote for a governor that is a Democrat or a Republican, then they're that governor. You're not, as the president of the United States, you're not the police chief. Your people aren't that. They've got to respond to the local people. And here's what really gets...
Well, that's not true, Ron. We protested this already. It is true, but it says right here, King George has affected to render the military independent of and superior to civil power.
Right. And that's
that was
one of their
is
points
that the
in
way
their
our military is run now? I don't really think so.
I don't. But and what we get to is this: if Donald Trump were a Democrat, if he were Barack Obama, there's some legitimate things in here people could complain about Democratic presidents, but not to the degree that Donald Trump has done them. But if one of them had sent federal agents in the way they did to any of these cities, Mike Lee and his pals would be apoplectic, and they could talk about all they want, their knowledge of the history of American government. And you know where they would have gone? Right here, saying this is not how it works here. So this becomes...
They did, and they would make the case that Biden set up so many regulatory agencies that it took a lot of the free will agency away from people, and that was antithetical to what the founding fathers had intended in the Declaration.
And it is.
And it's
and
a
you know
legitimate
what?
point.
And I agree with that. And we have for too long allowed there to be government by fiat, but no one has taken it to this extent.
Well,
number one, and let me finish. Number two, Reagan did the same thing. Harry Truman did it. Other presidents have did it. FDR did it. Other presidents have done it, but no one to this extent. And no one without the strict opposition of people across the board in both parties.
Well, if there's, these are, broken out into separate sentences. I don't know how many there are of these, what do you call them, the statements of grievances and so on, but just say there's 20 there. Trump hits like 18 of them.
No,
so it's not the same. It's not one or two. It's like a whole bunch of these are, what people stood up for against the king, why people went to war defending our country after that, and gave warning to the world, not warning to the world, energy to the world that they could do the same and be wholesome, good countries too. And he's ripping the shit out of it.
Well, he's doing that, and he's doing it in the face of a history that says that's not what we do.
Imposing taxes upon us without our consent. What's a tariff?
It's a tax. Taxes are supposed to be proposed and determined and passed by the legislature. The president has input. He gets to suggest that they be passed. But again, it's not something that is done solely by presidential fiat. That was the big one with these people. The big one, a lot of them were businessmen. You read the names on the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. A lot of them were businessmen, and some of them were smugglers, okay? But they were doing these things, and they were objecting to the fact that the British Crown was not letting them be represented in a local governmental body or in a national governmental body that took into account their unique circumstances as businessmen. The taxation without representation and those things were big. That's what caused the Tea Party, allegedly, and those matters, because what they were saying to him to a degree was what Republicans have said post-World War II. Democrats love the federal government to be involved in everything. We want it to be by state option. We want states to make those big decisions. Donald Trump has walked all over that for everybody. And once again, and this is something that really gets me, because so many of the people I see speaking on behalf of the Republican Party are, like myself, lawyers who presumably would have at some point read the Declaration of Independence, because they're hypocrites of the worst kind. It's in here for cutting off trade with all parts of the world. So they were unhappy because he wouldn't let people trade from individual locales within the colonies. And what has Donald Trump done with his tariffs and also with special deals that he makes on the basis of these tariffs, many of which put money into the pockets of the Trump family? It's such a similar deal. The Crown was getting rich on this too.
Has there ever been a power person in history who was voted into power to take power that you're aware of?
Well, I'm sure there are a lot.
I can't think of it. I'm just curious.
Voted into power meant
to take, because he's powerful and he's going to straighten the. Mostly power is something that's grabbed, taken.
Yeah.
And
revolutions happen
in small bits and pieces.
I would certainly. Mussolini wasn't, and Hitler wasn't. They offered plans that they thought were going to be some of them.
They tested the boundaries of power, the power grew.
Within their, but neither one of them said we're going to become what Hitler became or what Mussolini became. Turns out,
so that's sort of they're democratically elected. If that was the way they came into power, and then they changed and took power.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Trump has done.
So why don't we just have a vote, America?
Why don't we vote?
Just vote. Do you want to throw the Constitution out?
No.
Or just live under this way? It'd save a lot of lives. So,
and it may at the beginning.
I'm just saying, why go on with this so that families don't talk to families and people call each other names all the time and think that they're scoring points by calling me or you a libtard or owning the libs or deranged or something, and just get back to the basics. Under a dictatorship, a ruler, king, whatever you want to call a power monger, just let me live in peace or go back to this. Which way do you want to have it? Because if you're going to pretend that what he's doing is not detrimental to the Constitution, the foundations of what we are, it's delusion. So you can be delusional, and I can be deranged, but,
No, you make a great point, and that is what is it that you really want?
What do they want?
What do you want? And don't.
I've spent 10 years. I've spent 10 years. You have. We all have. Some people all of their lives, if they're 10 years old, half if they're 20, and too much of our lives if you're our age, to go, this is not intent. This is not the way I lived the first 80% of my life or 90. This is not what it's about.
The tragedy is that we all know that.
Yeah, but the end game is not a better country. The end game is what it started when it came down the elevator. Get the illegals out. Prove those Democrats, get rid of those Democrats from doing the harm that they're doing. They hate America. We used to be called generously, besides Democrats now, because the good man has found it to be a silent somehow. And it's a funny joke to some, but I don't want to be called dumb anymore. I'm tired of that bullshit. It is bullshit. And that libtard this, and you're crying about that. That's not America. That's just you just getting your phone up and calling the head of FIFA and saying, hey, pull the red card from that guy, because if you do, I'll be nice to you. And so that's not the way. That's not a democracy. That's not what the country was. That's not what the picnics were about. That's not what the watermelon contest was about. It wasn't that. It was something entirely different. You're reading it right in front of you, what it was. And then people don't want to embrace that. Then let's just say, which one do you want to do?
Well, I think that's where we're going to get here. If we don't on both sides begin to realize what our real legacy is. I love history. I really love history, and always have. But I had a constitutional law class my senior year in college, which because of the way things work in Louisville, you could take under the Metroversity classes at U of L and Catherine Spalding, and as well as Bellarmine, where I went. And I took it at U of L, University of Louisville, and it confirmed why I wanted to go to law school, because we dealt with the Declaration of Independence, and we dealt with the Constitution, and it was like, this is so great. No one can be a tyrant in America ever, in a way. That's what I mean. I was 22. I was 22, 21. But in reading that,
what the framers,
it left me with such a terrific feeling of security. That's where we're.
The good and the bad of it was, the good part was that there was people that said we can have a check and balance here, right? Yeah. So if one gets out of hand, the other ones come in, which has to make the assumption that you're only electing good people from all three sides. Yeah. Always. Because if one or the two get out of balance or one becomes more powerful and influences a second, then it's a 2/3 and you win. Today, it's 3 for 3. All three structures of government are controlled by one party, the judicial, legislative, and the executive. Yeah, and yet, they take no blame for anything that's going on. No. It's always somebody else.
Well, your insight about the word
But here's
wholesome,
where they made the mistake, though.
It's a great one.
It is. If you cannot start with a decent person, you're not going to have an end result that's good. A good businessman is not good because he made a better bet than somebody else on the stock market, or that he made more money by selling shoes at a location that was more conducive to shoe sales than the other guy that sold even maybe better shoes, but didn't have quite sense to do it. That isn't the measure of a good businessman. Always should be, and the best ones always succeed on the same predicate. They're good people. And if you're using the correct measuring stick of what measures a good person, a good businessman, it's not the dollars, it's not the rise of something, it's not my wealth over your wealth. But here's where the founders were flawed. They thought 3 checks and balances were enough. And in a modern democracy, it might have been 25.
Well, and one of the reasons for that is these people had read Adam Smith. I think he was out by then. They understood what capitalism it was, certainly. They didn't realize the type of cannibalistic capitalism that we have now. So I'd take it one other step. It's not just one party. It is one group of people that really control so much. And those are the people that Donald Trump is most interested in and are making all of the money off of this country. And it's something that I don't think they foresaw coming. It's one of the things that I don't believe our forefathers, and it was men, understood the immeasurable greed of some people. All of these guys that signed this, almost all of them, were men of a little bit more wealth than the other people. They were better educated. They knew Greek and Roman history and European history, even some African history. They were aware of other great civilizations that fell. But in their hearts, even though black people weren't treated as fair at all, Native Americans weren't, people from other countries, although there's a thing in here about immigration that is pretty relevant to what Trump has done, because they say in here, he has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, meaning that the states could grow, for the purpose of obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land. Remember that then as now, they needed working people here. They needed people that were going to put axes to trees and move rocks and do the stuff that these same guys probably weren't willing to do. But they knew that was important. They knew there had to be rules that allowed for the actual immigration of people here. That's why America's great. We recognize that we're better when people come here to do what your grandparents and aunts and uncles and dad and mine all did. That's why we're doing this podcast. Donald Trump and King George didn't, or King George did, which is to say, I don't want them to get bigger than us, so I'm going to stop it. Both parties are wrong. Immigration has been a problem for quite a while. Neither party's grabbed it and taken it by the horns, because every time a comprehensive bill is discussed, then the special interest on both parties cut it to hell, and also the moneyed interests. they do. People that have a lot of money that need cheap workers don't want immigration reform. They're living in gated communities. They're not afraid of all of these dangerous people out there. They want the people that were sitting in a room with me and my client on the 2nd of July when he had to report to ICE to make sure that he was doing everything he said. So they put us all in a room after we report in, and you see the fear on these people's face that they may not walk out of that room, although they're legitimately there and they're doing everything they're supposed to do. Those people, the people that use them don't care because there are more to come, okay? Donald Trump doesn't care because it's just a rallying cry, because he used those same people on every building he ever built. And so everything that we deal with, and we're getting close to the end here, in this, there are analogies to Trump. And I got off track a little bit, but the main thing is this, and then it's up to you, John. The main thing is this, is that this document talks about happiness. It doesn't just talk about happiness for Melania and Jeff Bezos and Musk and Trump. The happiness is intended for everybody, that people live free without fear. Under Donald Trump, none of us live free of the burden and fear of what's going to happen next. And Donald Trump and King George are two peas in a pod, because that's what both of them wanted. They wanted people to understand that tomorrow, unless you knuckle under, something can change just because I want it to change. That is not America.
No, and as long as people are willing to say someone else is under the thumb and not see that we're all under the fist, and therefore I'm not feeling this, we're not feeling equal pressure of it, it's not going to change very easily. I had a decent weekend regarding it. I went to a nice breakfast and had nice this and that afterwards. But if I was ranking all of my fourths, this would be way down there. I didn't feel the energy that we should have felt, particularly after. And by the way, the 200 one that we lived through in 1976, it had its flaws too. There was some bullshit going on there. But at the end of the day, I can still remember the red, white, and blue everywhere, and people just rah-rahing, and just a sense of like, and remember right at that time, we'd just gotten past the Nixon time. I don't remember exactly when Ford pardoned Nixon, what year that was, but we're coming into a new dawn, if you will, and it felt really different. This one felt like, the guy didn't even send decent messages to his own citizens, even though he's a prolific tweeter, commenter, transparent, blah, 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 which isn't transparency just because you talk. Never said, as a past leader would have said, any of them, all 44 others, or how many, not counting people who served twice. And what's the rallying cry? What was it? It was these memes about just ugly stuff, Obama's splattered picture on Air Force One and written in Arabic. And there's just hundreds of examples over the weekend from Friday to Monday that were like, does this guy, what is he? He's not a uniter at all. He's not the guy that I would ever grab a child and say that you can grow up to be just like that guy. It's just not there. Why would I want any child to grow up with a guy that I've never seen him with a pet. I've never seen him hug his children. I've never seen him crack a joke. I've never seen him warmly embrace somebody, other than the embrace in the moment is to get it over with. I've never seen him come up and speak eloquently to the country, written on a teleprompter or his own voice, and say, I want you to feel what I feel. He can't do it.
He doesn't think that he
doesn't. I don't know.
He doesn't think that other people can feel how he feels because he believes he's so superior to everybody else.
But that's not what I'm looking for.
Well, me neither.
The people who get something out of it, I've yet to say, okay, maybe they're right. Maybe I just maybe I just don't know how to, take that piece of liver, put it in a blender with the right spices and mixes of, good chemistry, bad ketchup, Worcester, salt and pepper, whatever, and drink that liver juice, because I know, or going in it, it's horrible, but some people are drinking it and they like it. They think this is good, and I don't get it. I don't see what the good is in the fellow. I don't. And I've never been shy about saying that. I'm not going to start. So I understand that as I say those things, some people go, oh, you hate America. You know what? Bullshit. I'm tired of that one too.
Well,
I'm so sick of that one. I don't. I say these things because the exact opposite. I feel that America, the America that my forebears came here from, going back to pre-revolutionary war, because I've had relatives in every war, including the French and Indian on my mother's side, all the way through the Greeks who fought their own tyrannists in Europe. I don't believe for 5 seconds that I'm entirely wrong about this guy. Not for 5 seconds. There's nothing that will change my mind there. He's a bad person. He's bad for America. The Americans that need to wake up aren't the ones sitting in this room, or even most of them listening to this. Everybody needs to take a look at that juice that they're drinking, and it's not healthy. You've been deluded. And, change the channel. Find out something different about America other than I'm a bad person because I don't worship who you do.
I learned a long time ago as a young lawyer not to worry about people who thought I was a bad person because they don't know me. And I agree with everything you say, but I just add the caveat. If you doubt that he doesn't believe in what our forefathers believed in, take 20 minutes and read the Declaration of Independence.
It's right there.
And read also the Constitution and the other documents that are so beautifully written and are based upon people that have real intelligence, that have been through wars and problems and lived under tyranny, and know people that have. My grandfather, both of my grandfathers left their native lands, didn't want to leave them because of tyranny, as did their wives. And other people did too. So many people from Bingham, that's why they were here. They came here to make a decent living. They came here so that they didn't have to worry about the knock on the door. They didn't want people showing up in black or brown shirts to arrest them simply because of the way they looked. That's what the Declaration of Independence really at its heart is. And so read it. And we're about done, but I'm going to skip one thing. I want to ask you and Bill, I've got a question.
Sure.
Because as well as reading Declaration of Independence, I read the Bill of Rights too. I read our state Declaration of Rights. I generally do that. I've got some songs, okay, and I think Bill tries to leave when we do this, but these are songs, all of which I listen to, because to me they're about America and about the America I grew up in. So these are songs, pick one or two of the best of these that encapsulate your idea of where we are now relative to our belief in the country, okay? Number one, Marvin Gaye singing the national anthem in 1983 at the NBA All-Star game. If you haven't seen that, but since most people haven't, I mean, you could also talk about Jose Feliciano, but it's fantastic. But if you don't want to do that, Marvin Gaye's song, What's Going On? The album, actually. America the Beautiful by Ray Charles. People Gotta Be Free by the Rascals. Got to throw in Fixin' to Die Rag by a country Joe McDonald. He just died in the Fish. A Change Is Gonna Come by...
Curtis Mayfield?
No. By
No.
Sam Cooke. Revolution 1 or 2 or both of them by the Beatles. And I listened to a lot of other ones. But sure. Add some to that, both of you, or pick one.
I don't like. I don't remember Marvin Gaye's, rendition of the national anthem. I guess maybe I've heard it, but I didn't put it in my long bank of memory. But he was one of my favorite singers, and he was a lot of, even in the community of the soul music community of that era, Marvin Gaye was among the highest respected for being a fine, fine singer. Yeah. And he was. So I'm going to probably choose Marvin Gaye. What's Going On was a great song. Great song,
and a great song about a period somewhat like ours now, because he's talking about people who just aren't getting a fair shake because everybody else is making the money and they're not. And that's part of it. And also the discrimination that's going on in the country. Bill, do you have one?
Jose Feliciano.
Is that why?
And you're breaking broadcast protocol because I don't have a phone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so Bill is Jose Feliciano.
The Beatles aren't even American.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, there. All right, that's fair. All right. One other one, This Land Is Your Land by Woody Guthrie.
He wrote another song, you know.
Well, he wrote a lot of other songs.
Yeah, he wrote one called Mr. Trump.
I didn't know that.
Yes, he did. And your assignment this week is to read, listen to, or find the lyrics to Mr. Trump. I believe that's the name of it. Surprised you didn't know that one.
Well,
it turns out Woody Guthrie was living in New York in the 50s, came upon a penurious, evil KKK member who didn't like black people and who owned a bunch of apartments and was doing all kinds of deleterious stuff towards these different groups of people, and wrote a song then when our current president was about 10 years old.
I'll have to read. I was unaware of that song, and I will take that as...
So, yes, he wrote a lot of good songs, but people that sing This Land Is Your Land and think that it's about cheerfulness.
Oh, no. He wrote that in response to... And my friend Jeff Hall just reminded me of this, actually earlier this morning, about... is it George Gershwin's God Bless America? Or Irving Berlin, whoever wrote that, that was a response, and his point was, God's already blessed America. Now we got to make it work.
Yeah, I just looked it up. It's called Old Man Trump.
Old Man Trump. Okay.
Here's a line from it. I suppose that Old Man Trump knows just how much racial hate he stirred up in the blood pot of human hearts when he drawed that color line.
Yeah.
That sounds like Woody Guthrie. It's
Sounds
not some
just
kind
like
of poetry,
him, yeah.
right? But it was all about, and this is before the dawn of what Trump became. He was already that.
Yeah.
He'd been trained in that. And Old Man Trump learned from his own father, who fled Germany for the same reasons, and begat the long tradition of Trumps doing everything they can do to extract from New York City and the rest of the country and not give a goddamn thing back. None of them have served in the military. None of them have done anything, like, okay, let's do something really worthy to be named after rather than usurping somebody else's name and putting my name upon. They did bad things. That's their whole DNA.
Well,
it's not new.
That's interesting. So I'm leaving here today with admitting that I was wrong to Mary Gaythwaite, having an assignment from you, having written on the chalkboard and finished that, and being told by Bill that I broke podcast protocol. So I feel like I've had a pretty successful day today.
Well, you're new.
You're new.
As he talks.
Now he speaks loudly,
yeah,
right?
now he's talking loudly.
We've already broken the fourth wall.
Oh, okay. So with that, I guess we're done. I mean, read the Declaration of Independence, folks. Read the Constitution. Read about them from reputable historians that know the story. And remember,
it's not about noise and fireworks. That's to celebrate it, and you can't forget the it.
No. All right. I hope you feel better.
Yeah, if you don't read about me, if I don't show up in 2 weeks,
okay. All right.
You'll know.
Well, if something happens, have your son call me. All right.
If you got an adequate replacement for this, it would probably be just a barking dog would do just as well.
No, that's not true. For somebody that was very sick, you were very eloquent today, and you were great. And also, we're not going to have to replace you.
Are we still spinning the time here?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
because
we are?
Let me tell you something.
Geez.
You know why? This is my dad's line. I've used it a lot. I stole it from him. You're not going anywhere. God isn't ready for you, and the devil's afraid of it. So you're not going anywhere.